إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله وبعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وأنحكم بينهم بما أنزل الله ولا تتبع أهواءهم واحذرهم أن يفتنوك عن بعد ما أنزل الله إليك. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my dear brothers. Jazakumullahu khairan, brothers, for coming. It's a very important discussion about heroes. This is number 4, the 4th series. We're going to be talking about Sultan Abdul Hamid, the 2nd. Now, who was Sultan Abdul Hamid? Why is he a hero? Another Khalifa. We all know what a Khalifa is, right? The leader of all the Muslims. Is there a Khalifa today? Do we have a Khalifa of the Muslims today? We have rulers who have betrayed the Ummah, left, right and center. But we do not have a Khalifa. What was so special about Sultan Abdul Hamid, rahimullah? Why was he so special? If you look at his time, bruv, he was in a time similar to this, where the kuffar are gathering together to take the Islamic lands. He came to office in 1876 as a Khalifa from Abdul Majid. Now, I think it's Murad, Abdul Majid is his father. Now when he came to his office, he's one of the sharpest Khalifa that actually suddenly realized what was happening. France, Britain, Italy, Russia, they're all coming together. And they saw a threat, the Islamic threat. Islam was a threat to them. They saw, wait a minute, it's a time that we can take the Islamic states, because Islam was not expanding. Jihad was stopped earlier on before he came to power. So the West started thinking, wait a minute, we can take the land. We can take it. They're weak at the moment. But that was not only thing. Internally there was things happening as well. Internally he had his own ministers who also made deals with the enemies, who made deals with Britain. They made deals with Russia. The one of the Pashas was the ministers. And he found out about that. We know about his life because of he wrote in his poetry and his diary how he saw his situation. All of the countries were coming together to take the Muslim lands, one by one. That's what's happening. What would you do if you were the Khalifa? You got your internal body, your ministers, also being taken over, bribed. And you got the enemies coming around you. At the same time, you had Muslims rebelling against the state, like in Saudi Arabia. How Saudi Arabia in his time, Saudi Arabia came into existence. Muslims separating from Islamic lands. Ibn Saud. From that comes Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia was known as Hijaz or Najd. That was happening. What would you have done? This is the situation that he was in. And on top of this, the Jews, the Yahudis, they had a plan as well. They were looking for the promised land. They looked at Ghana, they looked at Argentina, and they thought, wait a minute, Philistine. And they knew they can never get the Khilafah. But they thought, let's have a try, because they're weak. So they went to the Khalifa. And this is a very clear moment of Abdul Hamid's thinking, how he was as a ruler compared to the rulers of today. So they went to the Khalifa, and they offered him millions. Khalifa was in debt, so they offered him millions to pay for the debt and pay for the military as well. What was the response of Sultan Abdul Hamid? What was the response? We know this famous response, that this land, Philistine, was conquered by Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anh. He conquered it, and there's no way that you can take this land away from us, because it's Islamic land. It doesn't belong to him, it doesn't belong to Abdul Hamid. And if you were to take it, that will be the day when the Khilafah is gone, when you remove the Khalifa, and that was the day that you may be able to take it. But as long as I'm alive, I'd rather scar my body than give Philistine away. That was his response. But what do we have in Palestine today? Today, Palestine has become free states. Not seriously free states. You may think about Palestine and the Israeli. You got Gaza, that's run by the Hamas. And you got the West Bank, run by the Fatah. And then you got the Israelis. They don't know what's going on. This is a land they're absolutely messed up. Once the Khilafah was destroyed, they started taking that land. And that was the response of Abdul Hamid, rahimullah, when they came to him. While he was in power, internally there was nationalism. There was the Young Turks. There was a group of officers within the Uthmani Khilafah. They started thinking about Turkey. Turkey is the way forward. Let's get rid of all the other Muslim lands. Forget Saudi Arabia, forget Morocco, forget Syria, forget India. We got our own problems. Turkish problems they started calling. Not a Muslim problem, a Turkish problem. So they started wanting to separate Turkey from the Islamic lands. And Abdul Hamid wasn't having this. He knew what they were going, because they called themselves the Young Turks. And this is from that came Mustafa Kemal. Yeah, the one who established Turkey as a secular state. They call him Atatürk, they call him father of Turk. That's what Atatürk means. So what happened? They realized that Abdul Hamid was the obstacle to establishing a Turkish state. A Turkish state, yeah. That's what happened. They went to Abdul Hamid, and guess what? Abdul Hamid's response, subhanAllah, because the assembly, they got together, and that was in 1909. And they got together and they started saying, Abdul Hamid, this thing's not happening. The debt and things like that. And Abdul Hamid's response was brilliant. France has debt. In fact, America today is the most in-debt country in the world. But it's how you manage debt. How do you manage it? Yes, the Khilafah was in debt. In the rule of Abdul Hamid, his debt was so largely reduced. There's no way they can put that argument forward to him. But what the obstacle was to him was the issue that they wanted a Turkish state. And the only problem, one of the things that Sultan Abdul Hamid said was, okay, you want to remove me, but why have you got this Jew with you? Because it was the Jews there was a Jew that came in the assembly to remove Abdul Hamid. And he said, why have you got this Jew with you? If you want to remove me, you remove me. But why have you got? You can see very clearly he's exposing a conspiracy that the Jews want him removed. Because they did want him removed, because he was an obstacle to establishment of Israel. So he got removed. And before you know it, the next Khalifa, he didn't really have Muhammad Abdul Majid. He didn't really have much power. Because that's why you hear the term separating the Khilafah from the Sultan. Sultan means power. They wanted to separate it and make the Khalifa like the priest. And that's what happened. That Khalifa that became after Sultan Abdul Hamid, he didn't have much power. But the Khilafah system was still there. That's why the Khilafah system went on until 1924, because the system, the Qadi, the judge, all of them, it still was implemented by Islam. That's why we say it ended until 1924, when Mustafa Kemal declared Turkey as a secular national state. From there, all the Muslim lands started taking place. The independence of different Muslim lands. We can see very clearly Morocco, Syria, Bangladesh lately. This is what's happening. It's always continuing. We see Palestine coming up to be a new Muslim land. This is what's happening in the Muslim. So his removal led to the whole Ummah was in a major shock, especially in Turkey. Even in was Al-Azhar University, when they heard about the removal of the Khilafah, they made a fatwa. They said, look, the Khilafah is an integral part of Islam. We can never remove it, but it's been removed. And that was it. Why didn't they get fatwa that everyone had to work for it? Why didn't they get fatwa that everyone had to establish this Khilafah? The concept of Khilafah, we never heard of it. A lot of us. We thought Islam is just about Salah, Zakah. But where did the Khilafah come from? Khilafah is integral to Islam. Because that is what protects the deen. Imam Ali talked about the Salah, the Zakah, the Siyam. All of these into like a bracelet. And the Khilafah is that string that puts everything together. What happened when that was taken away? The statement of Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam. The first of the strong matters that will go is the ruling. The weighty matters of Islam. The first matter will be the ruling. The last will be the Salah. And we have seen today, Salah is being an issue today. So what are our issues?